Alright, so in the last video we just looked at how to do text masking. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to do 3D tracking. And when we do this one, I want you to write something like starring and your name so that we're going to create this effect that as we move around the room and as you kind of move your camera, it's going to look like the text is going to be put in place, that it's going to be kind of just sitting on the table or sitting on the counter or wherever it is that you choose to use it. Now, with this one, the most difficult part of this technique is actually getting the video that's going to work. Now, what this is going to be trying to do is it's going to be trying to look at all the points that of the video and create those in a 3D environment. So as you record your video, you want to make sure that you've got some video that's going to work, that's going to have enough points that it's going to be able to tell where it is in space. So what that might entail is, putting some books on a desk so it can find the corners of the books. If you just do a flat desk and you don't have any corners or anything that it can determine where it is, it's not going to work very well. Or if you move too fast and you just randomly spin your computer all around and it can't track the points, then it's not going to work either. So we want to try to move slow, but we do want to be able to move, and that's going to work fine. But as we move, we want to make sure that we can see some corners of some different things or just differences between areas in order to make the video work well. Okay, so I took a video a little bit earlier, and what I just tried to make sure of is that when I took the video, there was an object kind of in the middle, this book, that it can find the corners of. And I tried to make sure even that I could see the outline of the table itself so that it could determine where it was in space. So basically I just took the video, I just kind of walked around the table and I tried to keep this object in the center of the video as best I could. Once I took the video, I'm just going to drag it over here to our project panel. I'm going to drag it from here onto the new composition. And I'm going to go ahead and go up to the top where it says window. And I'm going to make sure that tracker is checked. If tracker is checked, then it should show up over on your side. So mine is over here, tracker. Yours might look a little bit different, but essentially this is what you're looking for. You just have to make sure that down here on the bottom that your movie clip that we just put in is selected. And as long as it's selected, then over here we should be able to click on track camera. When we do that, what it's going to do is it's going to go through and it's going to start analyzing the video. And it's really, again, it's looking to try to find all these different points in space. And it's going to try to find where each of the points over here are. You'll see initially it says initializing it, and then eventually it's going to move over here to where it's going through, and it's going through all the frames. And so mine was only about 7 seconds, maybe a little bit longer than 7 because it's about 30 frames per second. So for 7 seconds, it's going to be about 220 frames. Once it finishes that, what you're going to see is all these little colored dots. And these are all the points that it found, all the points in space that it found, and where it was able to track and kind of continue with those. And the goal really then is that we want to find, it takes 3 points and it puts this little target there. And that's going to show where it, the words that we're going to put in place are going to show up. Now, the one thing to keep in mind, I could do something like this, but it's using a point that's on top of the table and 2 points that are under the table, and it's not going to really work or look that great. So when you do this, consider the points that it's choosing and make sure they're all basically on the same plane. So here, these are all points that are being used right on top of the book. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and do a 2-finger click, and I'm going to say create text in camera. When I put that in, over here now it puts in this random text. So I'm going to go ahead and come up to my T, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I can come over and I can delete that out, and I'm going to put starring, and then I'm going to hit return and say Mr. Ollinger. And then I'm going to come back and I'm just going to highlight that and change the size of this a little bit so it's not so big. I want it to make it look like it's sitting on the table. Then I'm going to take my rotation tool, and this is the rotation tool here. And when I click on the rotation tool, you can see then I've got these different arrows. The blue is what's the z-axis, the green is the y, and the x is the red. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the x, and I'm going to rotate this, and you can see I can make it kind of flip around. But I want to make it look like it's basically standing up. I can take the green and I can move that around as well. And the blue makes it go this way. Once I have done that, I can hit the space bar and I can see how it does. Now this one looks like it's kind of sliding a little bit, and that's because I think when I put this on two lines, you can see my anchor point here. And so my anchor point, as I rotated it, kind of got out of alignment. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my selection tool, and I'm going to click on this green arrow, and I'm going to drag it up a little bit so that it hopefully doesn't slide as much. Maybe I need to do it just a little bit more, because it doesn't necessarily know that the table's there. It's just we're trying to make it look like it's sitting on the table. And it did a little bit better. Still sliding a little bit. But the general idea is that we want to just make this look like it's actually sitting on the table. There, that's pretty good. No, it's not sliding. So sometimes you might have to kind of move it by just dragging it a little bit, and you can drag on the points. As long as you click on the actual arrows, you can drag it in that direction. Now, I want you to think too about some additional things that you may be able to do with this. For instance, if we were to come up to edit and hit duplicate, I can duplicate my text. What could I do with it now? Well, one thing I could do, if I come up to my rotation tool, I could rotate it and flip it the other direction, and then hit the selection tool, and I'm going to drag it down here. And then I'm going to go to the opacity. I can hit T to go to the opacity and maybe change the opacity down. And the idea with this would be that to make it look like it's being reflected off the table. And you can see then that it lines up pretty well with it, and it would be like the reflection in the table. So think about that. Think about some other things that you could do with this as well. How else could you use it? This doesn't maybe necessarily make the most sense that I'm reflecting this off the table, since the table doesn't really reflect. But I just wanted to show that that's some things that you could do as well. You could duplicate it. You could change the opacity. You could change the rotation of a second one. And think of some interesting things that you could do with that then as well. Once you've finished that, again, make sure that you render it. So we're going to go up to Composition, Add to Render Queue, click on the blue words. You see this time mine says Movie and with the date. I'm going to go ahead and call this one Quest 8. Make sure I know where it's going. Save, render. And once you've rendered it, that finishes your second one. And so now we should have the first video of text masking with your superhero's name, the second video that says starring and your name using 3D tracking, and then we're going to go into the last one in this set to create that final one then as well.